Okay, the famous Casal de Fichi pizza dough. So the thing that is very easy to get in Italy, but quite difficult elsewhere in the world, some places certainly, is fresh yeast. Here it's in every grocery store, but it's not so internationally available. But you get a cube this size. If you can't buy it, you can scrounge some off a baker. So if you have a good relationship with a neighbourhood baker, then that's about the best source. And you crumble it into, I crumble it into a bowl like this with tepid water in, and whisk it up with a balloon whisk or whatever you've got available. Now normally we get our flour from the local flour mill. It grows in that field, it gets taken a couple of kilometres down the road, and we get it in 25 kilo sacks. But this year I don't think we're going to be using 25 kilos of flour, so this is just from the shop. Put it into the bowl and give it a whisk. And what you're looking to do is get a consistency that is somewhere between double cream and wallpaper paste. It doesn't really matter. If you don't have enough flour, then you can compensate later on in the pizza making stage. If you have too much, again, you can compensate later on. So I used to get up first thing in the morning of a pizza day to do this, because they reckon that the longer you take over making the dough, the better it is. But now I just do it the evening before, so suits me, suits the dough. Okay, a bit more flour. Generally I do this just by eye, but I have got scales, and in fact I measured the water and it was 600 ml of water. And this will make enough dough for a small pizza party. So on a small pizza party we'll get through one bowl. On a big pizza party we'll get through 3 bowls. So this will make 10, a dozen average Casal de Fichi sized pizzas. Okay, just a little bit of flour, and then we can just... So I'm indebted to Sarah Saxon, our sometimes neighbour from Tasting Places. They have a fantastic business to do with food in London, who taught me how to do this. So, and it's never gone wrong for us. So this is what we're getting. Can we see this? No. How's that? There you go. That sort of quite thick consistency. Probably closer to double cream than wallpaper paste. Okay. And then now what we'll do is put it somewhere warm, Italy for example, or sometimes I use a preheated oven, heat it up to 50 and then turn it off, and I'll put it in there. Leave it at least 2 hours. This is going to get overnight. Cover it with a damp cloth, or if you're leaving it outdoors and there are dogs around, with something a bit heavier. And see you again in the morning. And now it's morning. And here's the mix. So you can probably see that, hopefully, it's starting to bubble. So this has been overnight. It's about 12 hours it's had, so that's fine. The next stage, you don't need it yet, there's an intermediate stage. So we take it, handful of salt, and just to recap, this was 600 ml, more or less, of water, 25 gram cube of fresh yeast, and what was actually about half a kilo, 500 grams of flour. So now what we're going to do And a tip, if you think you're going to start on a second bag of flour, open it. Is add more flour to this. And using just one hand, so keep one hand for the bowl and another one, get your fingers in and start working it. Just like this. And what you're looking to do is to keep adding flour until it doesn't want to absorb any more. So it'll still be moist or sort of dampish, but the flour will start sticking on the outside rather than, so obviously it's getting thicker. Still more flour. Now you see why I opened the second bag of flour before I started, because my hand make a bit of a mess. Keep going. We've come inside this morning because it's too bright outside to film, so it should be nice weather for the pizza party this evening. Right, so this is starting to sort of all come together, but still needs making sure to combine all the flour from the bowl. Or now it's starting to come together as one lump. At this stage, when you add a bit more flour, if you put it on your hand and work it, then it'll help get the dough that's stuck to your fingers back into the bowl. So obviously, when you're making pizza dough, spend half the time making dough and the other half of the time washing your hands before and after every iteration. Right, we're nearly there now. See, this is my assistants. Hello, Jakes. Hello, Abby. Nearly there. In fact, that would probably do. As I said before, we'll come to knead it in a bit when you can always incorporate a bit more flour. So, if it's not quite enough, really isn't the end of the world. But this now is about right. So, here we are. It's not sticking to my fingers anymore. It's a dry, slightly damp lump. So what I'm going to do now is just pat it down, a bit of olive oil over the top, just not too much, just about that much. And then just spread it over. So this is just to keep it from drying out, basically. And obviously the olive oil will find its way into the dough. And then that's it. I'm going to cover this again, put it back in a warm place, which today will be out in the sunshine. So it'll be a heavy pan lid because of these boys. And be back in a few hours to knead it. Oh, so in terms of how much flour I just used, there was half a kilo in that bag, because I used half a kilo last night. started the second one. So I used 200 grams, so 700 grams altogether of flour in this second stage. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, I'm back. So it's now about 2 o'clock, 5 and a bit hours since dough's been resting. So you can see it's really puffed up. And although it was dry when we put it away, you can see it's gone quite soft, moist and spongy again. So now the time to knead it. So more of our good friend flour. We're lucky enough to have an outside granite table, and granite is perfect for pizza making, but wood, whatever countertop, same really. So get the dough out, and you can see it's gone all spongy and stringy and sticky again. We won't need nearly as much flour this time. So again, what I tend to do is get it into like a long piece like that, fold it over, throw in some flour, fold it over, work it out again. Nice long piece, fold it over, throw in some more flour, sit down, going. So they say that kneading is a bit of a Marmite activity. You really love it or hate it. All kind of different. It's fine. It's a bit tedious when you've got 3 or 4, or one time for a wedding group of something like 90, something like 8 bowls of dough to make, but there are worse jobs. It's a beautiful sunny day. Sort of washing my hands. I'm fresh from our pool, so not only are they clean, but they're purified by our new ozone purification system. So it's like an operating theatre here. Right, so now this dough is getting quite firm. You can feel it resisting. So I tried to do this for about, I don't know, 5 minutes. Probably seldom quite make 5 minutes, but you can time it if you like and see what you get to. And just keep folding it over. Again, you're looking for it to stop feeling wet. Which means that it's got enough flour. Trying not to waste flour. Table, but less cleaning as well. It's actually a combine harvester working up the hill. They're harvesting the grain. It's late June, so it's that time of year. So maybe that will be going into our pizzas later in the season. On the flour, plain white flour, any type really. You see bags that say special flour for pizza, and if that makes you feel better, I'm sure it'll work. but we tend to use just plain white flour. In Italy it's normally grade 0 or 00, which basically refers to the level of refinement of the flour, so how white it is, how little of the husk is left. So 00 is about as far away from wholemeal flour as you can get. So you can of course use wholemeal flour, anything you want really. We've made gluten-free pizza bases out of chickpea flour, gram flour, use rice flour, and of course you can buy a good selection of gluten-free bases now, which we like to keep in the freezer in case we suddenly discover that somebody is gluten intolerant. Right, we're getting there now. Apologies to anybody that makes bread and thinks I'm doing this all wrong. Just kind of do what works for us. And here we are. So it's like about the size of a cottage loaf now. Quite substantial though. Back in the bowl. Spread it out on the bowl. And again, if you make your own olive oil, then it's fine to use it. Otherwise, I believe that you can buy it as well. So again, put some onto the dough. So obviously the olive oil that I put on earlier has been worked into the dough, and this again will find its way in, so it'll give it a bit of delicious olive oil texture. And then leave this one final time, so there it is, to rise, and then you're ready to make your pizzas. The Italians tend to pre-form it into balls, which is well, as well as sort of everybody having their own individual ball of pizza dough to work with. They seem to think that if you don't do that, it will sink. We've done getting on for 300 pizza parties and never had that particular problem, so maybe it's because we get through it quite quickly. Maybe if you try to make it last a while, that's what would happen. And of course, if you don't need it all, it freezes and keeps for months and months. Buon appetito, enjoy your pizzas. I'm back again. Just going to weigh this bag of flour. So there are, so I used exactly 400 grams. It's amazing, it's coming up 397 in that last bit. So all together, I've used 1.6 kilo of flour. Ow. And one last thing, did I say it's about 2 o'clock now? We'll be cooking the pizzas at about 5, so this will be waiting for about 5 hours. Sorry, we're cooking at 7. We'll be waiting for 5 hours. Again, 2 to 3 hours is sort of the minimum. You can get away with an hour and a half if you're desperate. Enjoy your pizzas.